Anderson Cooper, AC360 CNN weeknights 10 Eastern.
Eric, what do you make about this? Her saying, Christine O'Donnell, basically on Fox News, saying that everyone's attacking her and that the media is actually getting in the way of her campaigning. Does that strike true to you?
You know, this is a campaign, and she's playing to her base. She's mobilizing the base. The base thinks there is a liberal bias in the media. Some of the questions, some of the answers, some of the attacks, so-called attacks from the media, play to the base. They rally them. They make her look very sympathetic. And she can get people out to vote based on this. And, you know, there are a lot of Republicans in Washington patting themselves on the back today because the media is so focused on Christine O'Donnell, they're not looking at other Republican candidates. And they're all thinking, whew, glad it's Christine O'Donnell.
I get the hatred of the media and stuff, but to hear a major candidate for U.S. Senate saying, like, well, you know, they're hurting my campaign by asking me questions and they're taking pictures of my dad on the lawn, I'm certainly sympathetic to that. Just someone's family shouldn't be bothered and stuff. But if she actually made herself available to the media rather than run away and refuse to ask questions, I mean, it just seems odd.
Frankly, that's the issue there. She doesn't care about the national media, and she doesn't really need to. It's kind of the Rand Paul strategy in Kentucky. He's raising a lot of money. He's up on the air in Kentucky. He's now 20 points ahead, although admittedly she's behind. But they're focused on local media and the national media attacks. To have Gary bring up the point about Christine saying maybe there are some events that the media shouldn't go to, and then jumping to this is like in China and Korea and Cuba. I mean, when you hear conservatives hear that, they're thinking obviously that this is bias, whether it is or not. I mean, she's playing to her base, and the media is just helping her.
John Avalon, what about that? Is the media making it easier for her?
Well, she's able to play the victim card, which may play well to certain elements of the base. But, you know, you need to be consistent about the standards. So often the political debates we have in this country are fundamentally filtered through a partisan prism. If she's trying to play locally, then it's worth asking how come she only got 5 in-state donations one quarter this year. Most of her money, in fact, was national money, activist money that came in and flooded the campaign late in the closed partisan primary that she won. She's trying to win in Delaware, where she's got a huge deficit against Republicans, an electoral advantage towards Democrats and independents. So, you know, she can talk now about trying to connect to her base and play in state, but that hasn't been how she's conducted her campaigns in the last 3 times she's run for Senate in the last 5 years.
John Ridley, the election's only 6 weeks away from tonight. Is it fair for voters to be influenced by a group, crew, which is calling for an investigation that won't be completed by Election Day? I mean, is that, that would strike some people as unfair against her. They're basically making these allegations against her, and no one's going to be able to investigate it in time, really.
Well, I don't know whether it's unfair or not to bring up what could be a real issue, and she certainly has an opportunity to answer those. She talked about on the show tonight that she'd posted some letters from the IRS that address these issues. I read them. To me, they're fairly inconclusive. But she does, John and Eric both talked about playing to the base. Playing to the base at this point is not going to work. She's got very negative numbers in Delaware. 60% of likely voters think that she's not qualified, and this is a state where the electorate is actually in line with a lot of the Tea Party principles, getting rid of health care, reducing the size of the budget, reducing government, and things like that. So this, for her, is not even about the issues. This is really about likability. People have got to learn what she's about. So bringing up these issues, whether they're fair, whether they're not fair, that's politics. It's can she answer them, and will she answer them for the people who are going to vote for her? And by the way, not just a closed Republican primary anymore. This is wide open now.
John Avalon, Eric brings up an interesting point, something that Gary Tuchman had said, which I thought did seem kind of overboard to me. But he raises an interesting point about bias, and I think bias is something that certainly I'm obsessed with and try to eradicate it to the extent that is possible. Do you think the media or us or anyone in the media is focusing more on her? Do you think if she was a Democrat and she just had kind of appeared on the national scene, won a surprise election, do you think she would be getting, with the same kind of record she would be getting the same focus?
Maybe not. I think both sides do tend to sort of take the look at the crazies on their own side and say, well, they may be crazy, but there are crazies. And really, you need to see it in context. They're quick to give them the benefit of the doubt. And that's why it's so important to be consistent in the standards you apply. I mean, the dabbling in witchcraft story wasn't important in upon itself. It is really just an issue of the larger tip of the iceberg of stories that seem to be coming out consistently about her because she put herself on television throughout the 1990s as a professional social conservative activist. And now that's all coming back to haunt her, in addition to the very serious financial questions that are coming into play, which you can't spin your way out of. Those are legal issues.